Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Flash Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about on campus housing at Kent State and the different things that international students should be aware of for that. I'm joined today by our special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Ashley Andrews. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the assignments coordinator with University Housing.
Perfect. And I forgot to introduce myself too. I'm Sarah Sutter. I also use she, her pronouns, and I work in the international admissions team. So I mostly handle graduate applications, but today we're talking about on campus housing for everybody. So, first, one of the most important questions, are international students required to live on campus?
So we do have a 2-year live-on requirement for all incoming students. The difference between that is just making sure that we have our students who are on campus in a safe and comfortable environment. Um, but within the 2-year residency, there is, of course, some exceptions to that. If you are over the age of 20 years old, if you've earned 60 plus credit hours, or if you've lived on campus for 4 semesters, you are not required to live on campus. I know that sometimes students also request to live off campus for various reasons. If they have family in the area, if they would like to commute, we do offer the commuter be able to the ability to commute from a parent's address or whatever the address is from the primary residence that is on your housing application.
Mhm.
Um, Students may also request to live off campus or be exempt from living on campus due to financial reasons, extenuating circumstances, or religious practices that may conflict with our residence hall requirements. All that information can be found within our exemption process
Mhm.
on our website.
Yeah, so it's mostly like the incoming freshmen and sophomores that would need to worry about being forced to live on campus, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So for graduate students, you have the option generally. Um, does Kent State provide any assistance with off campus housing at all?
While we don't necessarily provide assistance with that, we do have a list of all of the local apartment complexes within the general Kent area that could be as close as right off campus, as well as some farther away apartments. We have that a listing on on our website under our resources tab, and it is called local housing, and that is has all of the different apartments that either we know have vacancies or we know are available that students may look into.
Perfect. Yeah, that list is extremely useful. I send students there all the time, so I highly recommend checking that out if you plan to live off campus. But what are the benefits to living on campus compared to off campus housing?
So, benefits to living on campus, you are going to be right in our residential community. You're going to be surrounded by other students who are taking classes. They could be in your same major, they could be in your same areas. We have the ease of living on. So, you're going to be surrounded close to your class buildings. You're going to be closer to our dining facilities. You're going to have access to our student resources, the library. The other offices that we have, accessibility services. Being on campus, it's in a closer, tight knit community. That way, we're able to provide you the ease of resources that you may need while also feeling that you are being better supported while living on with us.
For sure. And for our international students, it can be challenging sometimes with transportation. So living on campus can be really great because you have easy access to the bus service and all of your classes right there. So that's a thing to think about for sure if you plan not to have a car. What kind of amenities are available in the residence halls?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our residence hall rooms have a twin double XL bed that is has the frame and everything in it. There is a desk provided with a desk chair, dressers, wardrobe, and closet. Um, all residence halls have access to a community kitchen. It could be somewhere on your floor or it could be within the actual building itself. That will allow you to cook your own meals if that's something that you're interested in. Some of our area desks, which are strategically placed within the residential communities but may not be in your specific hall. Sometimes we'll have items that you can check out, which could include cookware, it could include cleaning supplies, anything like that. Those are all things that are provided. Are they're different. The one thing is some of our residence hall rooms will have a bathroom included in there. Those are your doubles with private bathroom, or Centennial Court suites with a private bathroom or shared bathroom, versus our other residence halls have what we call pod style bathrooms, which are individual stalls that students can go into. You're the only person in that stall. The door locks and it has a toilet, a sink, and a shower in it, so that you would have that privacy as well.
Perfect. We have a question from the audience. This is actually one that I didn't plan for today, so let's go ahead and answer that if that's okay. So which options do the honor students have in terms of dorms, and are they allowed to pick whichever hall they want?
So we have 4 residence halls that are specifically geared towards honors. The 2 that are most commonly selected are our Stouffer Hall and Johnson Hall. They are a complex suite, so they are right next to each other. And those are those buildings that have the double with private bathroom in them. The other residence halls that we have, Centennial Court B. In Centennial Court B, if you are an honor student, you are able to live in that space and have a non-honors roommate. So essentially, your roommate is not part of the honors college. That is a very high draw for that. Those rooms are also your standard, your double with private bathroom. And then the last hall that we have, which is more in our first year geared community, is Clark Hall. That is located in Eastway, and those are typical standard doubles that would have that pod style bathroom. Any of those are accessible to our students who are within the honors college. And we are you'll be able to preference those in your housing application, and we are working on a way that you'd actually be able to self-select your room based on a time slot.
Excellent. Thank you. We have one more audience question here. Do you have any family housing available?
We do not, unfortunately, offer family housing. That is something that we did offer at one point in time, but we have since moved away from it.
Perfect. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the amenities that are available in the residence halls. Are there some rules that students should be aware of if they plan to live on campus?
So we do have a list, it's a very a lengthy almost list of rules, but some of the ones that I would like to highlight, something that is very commonly asked: we do not allow pets in the residence halls. We do offer, if you have an approved accommodation, so a housing accommodation through Student Accessibility Services, an accommodation for like an assistance animal or an emotional support animal. You would have to work with Student Accessibility Services to have that approved prior to bringing your animal to campus. A couple other things that are very important to note: we are a smoke and tobacco-free campus. So we do not permit any form of cigarette use in the building. We do not permit cannabis use or anything like that. That is, you're smoking that within our residence halls. And then another thing just to highlight is, in the United States, you are not permitted to have alcohol if you are under the age of 21. That is not permitted in any of our residence halls.
Perfect. I see lots of audience questions. Some of these we're going to be getting to, so I'll just wait one moment for things like housing and reserving costs, that sort of thing. So are students able to choose their preferred residence hall or the roommates? And how would you advise them to make that decision, since most of them haven't seen the campus before?
Absolutely understandable. So the answer is yes. You are able to select your room and your roommate within our housing application. For our students who are able to apply and commit to Kent State before May 1st, you can submit your housing application, and within that housing application, you are able to request your roommate. As long as your roommate goes back in and confirms that they want to live with you, you guys are now tied together as a roommate pair. And if you are able to apply before May 1st, you are entered into what we're calling a housing lottery, which is essentially you would be assigned a randomized number, and you would be assigned to a date. And during that time frame, you would be able to go into our housing application and our housing portal, and you're able to select your residence hall room. If you have a roommate that is paired with you, you would automatically pull that roommate in with you to your into your residence hall space, as long as there are 2 spaces provided in that residence hall room. Um, if you are um, if you're not able to go in by May 1st, there is still the opportunity for you to preference and select what you would like to live in your housing application, as well as preferencing your roommate. Our assignments team will go in looking at those after all of our room selection process has occurred, and we will try our darndest to get you assigned to a room that meets what you preferenced in your housing application. And if we're able to honor those roommate requests, we will absolutely try to do so. It's something that we really would like to do, because we want you to come to campus and feel comfortable and safe in the space that you're living in. Because you may not have ever seen Kent State's campus, on our website under our residence halls tab, there is a full list of all of the residence halls that we have on campus. And there are actual like video tutorials that you can go through, and you can basically almost like walk through the residence hall itself, just to kind of get an idea of what that hall looks like, what those rooms might look like. Other ways that I would advise, if you're not following us on our social medias on Instagram and Facebook, those are also really great tools, because we have our marketing team is constantly making new videos for you to see, walkthroughs, ideas, just to get you a better sense of what this space is going to look like before you get here.
Excellent. Okay, we have a few more audience questions. This one, they said that they're planning to bring their family, and then kind of what would you suggest for housing for families in that situation?
If it was with a family, I would advise looking into off-campus housing in one of the apartments in the area. If you are, and that's if they're like if you're planning to have them for the entire time you're staying here. If you're going to bring family just because your family is coming to help you move into your on-campus space, we are able to provide some local hotels that can provide some temporary stay for folks, just to have so they can stay in the hall, because we won't be able to accommodate them in your actual residence hall space. But for true family housing, I would recommend looking for off-campus housing, just to best support the needs that you may have.
Perfect. And then someone is also asking if students can work through housing services.
Students are able to apply for students are able to apply for jobs on campus. That portal I'm not as familiar with, but you are able to apply for on-campus jobs, and I believe you're able to work up to 20 hours a week. That is a little bit outside of my wheelhouse, but I do know that that is something that we do permit students to do.
Yep. Any jobs for students will be posted on Handshake, which is Kent State's job platform. So I would just recommend looking there if you're looking for jobs. Okay, back to our questions. So what are living learning communities, and how can students join one?
So, a living learning community is essentially a community of like-minded or mutual ideas that students may be interested in. They could range from something that's more academic based, like our aeronautics program. It could be something more interest based, like our living in the arts communities. It could be the honors community. So it could be a vast range of different interests or different programs. Some of them are programs that you would have to like apply for, or you submit your request for, such as our honors community. And sometimes they do have a specific residence hall that they are tied to, as opposed to just having a space that is just, this is a group of students who are interested in the same things. So for our communities like living in the arts, our aeronautics community, honors, those are specifically tied to specific areas in our residential communities. So living in the arts is located in Prentice. Aeronautics is located in Coons Hall, and then honors, as I mentioned earlier, Stouffer Johnson, Clark, Centennial Court B. You are able to go into your housing application, and when you submit that application, you are able to preference a living learning community that you're interested in. you put that in there. If it's not a request, like if it's not a living learning community that you have to apply for, submit additional documentation to, like I know for our honors program, some students do have to be admitted to that. You can put that preference in, and when we are doing housing placements, we can show you residence halls or rooms that fall within that living learning communities environment.
Perfect. We've had lots of questions about this already. Approximately how much does on-campus housing cost per semester?
Yes, and on-campus housing, it differs based on where you are living at. So we have 24 different residence halls on campus, and within those different residence halls, we have a variety of different room types. We have our double rooms, single rooms. We have doubles and triples with private bathroom. We have a vast array of different room types. So the cost for each of those room types kind of differs. The most common one that we see is our standard double room rate is it would only house 2 students, is $4,175 per semester. And that is per student, as opposed to having that one cost divided into multiple spaces. So it is, every room rate that we offer is per student. We can find more information about that on our website under our current residents under room rates. And it's listed based on what the cohort or what your admitted group is, and what all of the different room rates would be for you.
Yep. So the housing website's at the bottom. I highly recommend checking that out if you have additional questions after our talk today, and also the email address. So feel free to email if you still have some questions too. So how do students apply for on-campus housing if they want to do that?
So housing, to apply for housing, if you go to our website, there right in the center of it is a little button that says apply for housing. That will link you to our housing portal. The housing portal, which I believe you can also access through your Flashline account. You would link in there, and there is a button at the very top that says apply for housing. You would fill out that housing application. In that housing application, there is a couple fees that I think we might have some questions about. So there is a $200 prepayment for your housing application. What that prepayment is it essentially is a down payment, or this is what is going to secure your housing for the semester. So you've applied for housing. I now have $200 that would be put towards the total cost of my housing cost for the semester. The $40 that is also associated with it is an application fee. The application fee is just essentially what it is. It's saying that you're submitting a housing application. The $40 application fee is non-refundable. Now, we would work with you if, let's say, something were to happen and you were not able to secure a visa. We would work to waive that as opposed to having it just be non-refundable. The $200 prepayment, if you decide that Kent State is not where you would like to go, that's completely fine. Our accounting team would make sure that that would be refunded to your account. In the application, you will be able to go in, you'll submit it'll pull in your demographic information. So just more information that we need to know. It does ask for a phone number that we can use to contact you if we need to do that at any point. There you would go in, you put in any form of, I'm trying to think of all the things, I have to think of all the steps. Vaccination information. It does ask some questions about criminal history, but then you're able to go in preference if you have an LLC that you're interested in, which is a living learning community, then you can go in and you have to put in up to 8 residence hall preferences. And that could be residence hall preferences, but it also could be the specific room types that you're interested in. As you continue in there, that is also where you would go in and you'd be able to request your roommate. If you have a specific roommate. If you don't have a specific roommate, we do ask some roommate pairing questions in there that just kind of gets a better sense of who you are and the type of person that you'd be interested in living with. We want you to feel safe and secure in the space that you're living in, so we would like to try to pair you together as best as we can. After you've completed that application, you would submit the application fee and the prepayment, and then you would sign the contract, and thus you have applied for housing.
Perfect. We have a few more audience questions here. Are there any differences between housing for graduate students and undergraduate students?
We do not have any different different housing specifically geared towards graduate or undergraduate students. So you could be living with a graduate student, or you could be living with an undergraduate student, depending on who you are. We do have buildings that are more geared towards our upperclassmen. So our residence halls, such as Engelman Hall, which is our apartment style residence hall. That is a very popular building because it does offer kitchen, a kitchen in the space, a community space, and the space is only shared with between 2 and 4 students. Our other residence hall that's very popular for our upperclassmen students is Beale and McDowell, which is our Twin Towers. Those spaces are 2 bedroom suites that share a bathroom. So it's 2 single bedrooms, a common space, and then there is a bathroom in the middle, and that is shared with another 2-bedroom suite. Those are very popular for our upper class or graduate students because it kind of gives you the sense of living within an apartment style, but actually still living on campus.
Okay. And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but does each room have a cooking area?
Each room in Engelman would, but each residence hall has access to a communal kitchen somewhere within the building. It could be on the floor itself, or it could be a couple like down on the first floor, or maybe up on the 3rd floor. It just kind of depends on where the placement is in the building. But each hall community does have access to a kitchen.
Perfect. Okay, so you talked a little bit about the housing contract when we were talking about applying for housing. So what should students know about signing a housing contract?
So a big thing to know is it is legally binding. That housing contract, once you've signed it and once you've moved into that space, if you decide at any point in time that you no longer want to live on campus, or there is a reason that you shouldn't be living on campus, you would have to submit what we call a petition for a contract release, which is essentially a request form saying, I want to be out of my contract and here is why. You could be submitting that for financial reasons. You could be submitting it for extenuating circumstances. You could be submitting it because I have to light candles as part of my religious need, and the university does not permit candles. I should have mentioned that earlier. We do not permit candles in our residence halls. So you would need to provide, when you fill out that petition for contract release, you would need to provide as much detailed documentation to support your need to get out of your contract as possible. I will say sometimes what we are asking for seems like it's very intrusive, but what we need to best support to get you out of the contract could be more financial documentation. It could be talking about how your parent has lost their job, something along those lines. So being mindful that if you do sign the contract, you are bound to live in the contract within both the for the full academic year, which is the fall semester and the spring semester. But if you need to break that for any reason, there is a big process that goes with that. Another question that typically pops up, I think, within, which might be your next question, Sarah, is talking about if students are under the age of 18 and needing to sign this contract. So we have a process that is called a proxy. Essentially, what it means is that students, when you go to apply for housing, if you are under the age of 18, it is going to say you are under the age of 18, you will have to have a proxy, or basically a parent or a legal guardian or somebody that is able to help sign that contract on your behalf. In that process, it asks for their contact information, their email, and when you submit that information into our proxy system, that will then trigger an email that is sent to you, whoever you've entered in there. That person will need to go log in, provide the similar information. I want to say it at request for them to provide a PIN number for you. And as long as the pins that you submit and your parent submits or your guardian, whoever submits, match, then it'll say, okay, you now have a proxy on file and you can submit your housing application.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and take this one. Someone's asking if they should apply for housing before or after admission. Definitely wait until after admission. You don't want to be signing the housing contract and locked into that before you know if you're even admitted to Kent State first. So please just wait till you have your admission decision, and then you can go ahead and start working on applying for housing. So is temporary housing available for students who arrive before the move-in date? This happens a lot for our international students.
It does. So I will say we don't necessarily call it temporary housing, but I know the terminology very well with answering emails and answering questions. We refer to that as early arrival. But yes, to answer that, we do offer that for anyone who is needing to come prior to the start of the academic year, prior to the start of their term. Depending on when they arrive, kind of depends on what that process looks like. So if we have students who are coming in over the summertime, depending on when they arrive, will determine if they have to go into our summer housing, because we do offer summer housing throughout the academic year, or throughout the summer, I should say, or if they would just fall into our early arrival category. So over the summer, we have housing offered basically from May until the beginning of August. If you need to arrive during that time, you would go into summer housing and you would fall under that summer housing room rate, which is a weekly rate as opposed to a daily rate. And then we would then transition you into your fall housing assignment after we do our transition out of summer housing. If you just need to come a few days early because that was the flight that you were able to get, and you're like, I'm going to be here, but I don't have anywhere to go. As long as we can confirm, and we would work to confirm that your room is move-in ready to go, we would have you come in and we would just move you right into your residence hall room. I touched a little bit. Summer housing is a weekly rate depending on the room type that you're assigned to. We only offer one specific room type over the summer. So those weekly rates is between $200 and $250 a week for the early arrival, which is for the summer housing. But for early arrival, it is $35 a night. And I'm more than happy to work alongside you to make sure that we are giving you the most cost-effective rate, because even though you are coming in early, I don't want to overcharge you just because you came in early because you had to catch a flight. So that's something that I work very hands-on with, and I'm more than willing to help work with y'all as best I can.
And we had a question earlier about the early arrival housing. Can the mother of a student share a room for temporary accommodation?
Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do that because I don't know. It's very dependent on if a student, if like that other person is already there, because if the other person's there, we wouldn't have a space to house the mother. Typically, we would advise that we wouldn't have that option, and that we would ask that parent stay in one of the local hotels that we have nearby.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll just do one more question since we're running out of time here. How do students check into their dorms when they arrive in the USA, especially for students that might arrive in the middle of the night or something like that?
Yeah. So we have as I mentioned earlier, we have area desks that are strategically located within our residential communities during business hours, which is 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Every day. Our area desks are going to be open, and they would be able to assist students with getting checked in. Now, I also understand that sometimes people come in at not within business hours, which is totally understandable and totally acceptable. We have in our residence halls, we have professional staff members, residence hall directors, assistant residence hall directors. They are on call. So essentially they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There is a phone number or a call, like we would work with you to get you connected with those individuals. And they would be able to meet you at the area desk location that best as closest to your or is your assigned area. They would be able to get you checked in. They would be able to make sure that you knew where you were going, and they would be able to get you into your room if that meant when you're coming. Sometimes you'll need a flash card to get into your room. We would work to get you an ID card so that you're able to do all of that. So you're able to get in whenever you arrived, regardless of what day or time it is.
Perfect. I know we had lots of audience questions that we unfortunately didn't have time for. I'm really sorry about that. So I recommend either checking the housing website for your questions, or you can email housing@kent.edu. Did you have any final thoughts, Ashley, before we finish?
No, I am very honored to be able to get to be here with y'all today and get to speak with you a little bit more. Feel free if you have any more questions, please reach out to housing, and more likely than not, I will be the one who's responding to you. So if you have any other questions or have any other information, feel free to reach out, and we're really excited to have you on campus.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.